All right, we're talking about series today, arithmetic series, not sequences. So a sequence we said was something like this, a list of numbers that go up by the same amount every time. A series is when you take a sequence, but you find the sum of all the numbers, the sum of all the terms. So for example, the series, which is called s at n or s at 3, because for the first 3 in this one, would be equal to 9. Because if you add all of these numbers up, it gives you 9. The term at 3 would be 5. This is what we talked about before. Series is kind of one step further. Okay? If instead we did S2, it would be only 4 because it would be the sum of the first two terms. So there's 3 formulas we're going to use, these 3 right here. Basically every question works the same way, we just need to pick a formula. This first formula, it's pretty complicated. It's explained in a lot more detail here where it comes from. Basically, if you take a series, okay, and you write it again but backwards, it's the same thing, it's just backwards. If you add each of these terms, they will become the same. All the terms will be the same. And once they're all the same, you can just add them up together, gives you the total, and then what you need to do is divide by 2 because you wrote it twice. Okay? So it gives you the sum. That is what this formula is doing in a very complicated way, but that's just where it's coming from if you wanted to know. The second formula is a lot more straightforward. Again, let's take that list. Okay? If we took the first and the last term, okay, and we average it, we will get the middle. So to find average, we take the first term and the last term and then add them and divide by 2. That gave us the middle term. Then what we can do is multiply by how many terms there are in the list, and that will give us the sum. So that is what this formula is. This is find the average by adding the first and the last, divide by 2, and then you multiply by how many terms are in the list. Okay? The last one is the weirdest. Instead of finding the sum, we're using the sum. So let's take our list again. That's our list of numbers. If I find s at n, or let's say s at 3, okay, the third sum is 6, if you add them all together. The second sum is 3, these two added together. If you take the sum of all 3 numbers and you subtract the sum of the first 2 numbers, what will you be left with? Just the last term in the list. So that's what's happening here. You take, to find the last term, you take the sum of all the numbers and you subtract the sum of all the numbers except the last one. Which, when you think of it that way, it makes sense, but that's what's happening there with that formula. This formula doesn't get used very often. It's really only when they give you a formula for s at n, which doesn't happen a lot. Usually they give you a list of numbers. So, in order to solve these types of questions, first, identify as much as you can. These are all the variables we use. Sometimes they give you this one and this one and this one, whatever. You have to figure out, what do I know? Once you know as much as you can, you said, oh, A is equal to 3, D is equal to 2, whatever, then you pick the good formula. Whichever of the 3 formulas will work given the information you have. The way you do that is which one do you have all the information for except for one variable. Usually you won't have this one, but whatever. Then you sub in the numbers you know, sub this in the formula, sub it in the formula, and solve for what's missing. So let's do some examples. This first one says find the sum of the first 10 terms. So A is equal to 1, that's the first term. N is equal to 10, there's 10 terms. I don't know T at N. I obviously don't know S at N. But I can find difference really easily. It looks like it's 3. It's going up by 3 every time. That's all I have. Let's look over at the formulas. I don't know S at N, but I do know N, I know A, and I know D. I can use this formula. So I'm going to use this formula. I'm going to put in the numbers. So S at N is equal to, N was 10, 2 times 1, plus 10 minus 1, times D is 3, and then all of that divided by 2. So now we can just put this in a calculator and find the answer, and that'll be it. That'll be the sum of all the terms in the list. Second question, we're going to look at this. So my first term is 3. My last term is negative 11. My n is 8. Oh, sorry, it's not this. There we go. Yeah, it's that. So the n is 8 because it's the 8th term, and that's all I know. So I want to find the sum. So in this first formula, I don't actually have D, so I can't do this formula. I could figure out D, but I think what's a lot easier is I'm just going to use this formula, because I have N, I have A, and I have T at N. So I'll just sub in what I know. So 8 times 3 plus negative 11 divided by 2. put that in a calculator and you get the answer. Okay. The third one, they gave us a formula for what S at n is. They want us to find the fourth term. The problem is I can't just sub in 4 because that's not going to give me the fourth term. That will give me the fourth sum, okay, the total of all four numbers. So what I'm going to do is I have to actually start writing out the list. I'm going to write out what the numbers are over here. Okay, let's find T1. So T1 is the same as S1. The sum of all the numbers in 1 is just the number. So let's sub in 1 and figure it out. So S at 1 is equal to 3 times 1 squared minus 1. So when I solve that, that's 1 squared is 1, 3, that's 2. First number in the list is 2. Cool. Now let's find the second sum. Okay, so the second sum is going to be 3 times 2 squared minus 2. So 2 squared is 4, 12 is 10. Now be careful. This number is not 10. This is the sum, right? So remember, in order to find the sum, in order to find the number, I'm going to use the formula, that third formula right here. So the number T at n is equal to S at n minus S at n minus 1. So T at 2, which is what we want, is equal to sum at 2 minus sum at 1. Sum at 2 we said was 10. S at 1, sum at 1 was 2. So that means it's 8. So the second number is 8. Now, if they told you it was arithmetic, you can tell, well, look, the difference is 6. So the next number is 14, the next number is 20. That's done. If they don't tell you it's arithmetic, you have to keep subbing in and solving it. But really, if you do the next thing, S at 3, and do it, S at 3, and sub in 3, so you get 3 squared minus 3. If you do this, all the steps, it will give you the same answer. Okay? So, the fourth term was 20. That's all we have for today. Follow these three formulas. It's very similar. The most challenging part is figuring out which numbers do I have and which formula should I use. And that's it.